Imagine for a moment that inside your body there is a tiny molecule working like a key. This key has one job. It unlocks your blood vessels and keeps everything flowing smoothly. When this key is doing its job, your heart does not have to work as hard. Your circulation stays strong. Your energy holds up through the day. You feel the way your body was designed to feel. But here is the part that most people never hear about. This key slowly disappears as you get older, and almost nobody tells you it is happening. By the time you reach your 40s, your body has already lost nearly half of this molecule. By your 60s, the drop becomes even more serious, and the consequences of that loss are not small. Your arteries begin to stiffen. Your blood pressure starts climbing. Plaque builds up in places it should not be. The heart works harder just to push blood through vessels that have lost their flexibility. And the frightening part is that this entire process happens silently, without warning, without obvious symptoms, until something serious shows up. That molecule is called nitric oxide. It is not a supplement you take or a drug your doctor prescribes. Your body produces it on its own. It lives inside the walls of your blood vessels, in the cells lining your arteries. And its primary role is to tell those vessels to relax and open up. When nitric oxide is present in healthy amounts, blood flows freely. When it is gone, the entire cardiovascular system begins to struggle. This is one of the most important discoveries in modern heart health. And yet most people walking around today have never even heard of it. Scientists and cardiologists have understood the importance of nitric oxide for decades. It plays a central role in keeping your endothelium healthy. The endothelium is the thin inner lining of your blood vessels, and it is where nitric oxide is made. When this lining is healthy, it produces enough nitric oxide to keep arteries flexible and blood pressure stable. When the lining is damaged or aging, production falls. Poor circulation follows. Fatigue sets in. The risk of heart disease, stroke, and high blood pressure begins to rise in ways that are very difficult to reverse once they take hold. But here is what changes everything. You do not have to sit back and watch this happen. Nutrition is one of the most powerful tools available to support nitric oxide production naturally. Certain foods contain compounds that either build nitric oxide directly or protect the nitric oxide your body is already making. And today, you are going to learn about 8 of those foods. These are not exotic ingredients from a specialty store. These are real, everyday foods that carry extraordinary benefits for your cardiovascular health. By the end of this, you will have a clear picture of what to add to your plate and why it matters so deeply for people in their 60s and beyond. The countdown begins at number 8, and it starts with something you may already have sitting in your kitchen cabinet. Nuts and seeds are among the most reliable foods you can eat for nitric oxide support. And the reason comes down to a specific amino acid called L-arginine. L-arginine is the raw material your body uses to manufacture nitric oxide. Think of it as the ingredient your endothelium needs to do its job. Without enough L-arginine coming in through your diet, production slows down and your blood vessels feel the consequences. Almonds, walnuts, pistachios, pumpkin seeds, and sunflower seeds are all excellent sources of this amino acid. A small handful eaten daily can make a meaningful difference in how your body supports nitric oxide levels. But L-arginine is not the only reason these foods belong on this list. Nuts and seeds also deliver healthy fats that reduce inflammation inside blood vessels. They provide magnesium, which helps muscles in artery walls relax naturally, and they carry antioxidants that protect the cardiovascular system from oxidative damage. Research has shown that regular consumption of nuts and seeds improves endothelial function, which is the health of that critical inner lining of your arteries. Calling them a triple support system for your circulatory health is not an exaggeration. Moving to number 7 brings us to something bright, tangy, and full of life. Citrus fruits carry a benefit that goes beyond vitamin C, though vitamin C itself is the star of this story. Nitric oxide is a fragile molecule. Once your body produces it, it can be broken down and damaged by free radicals and oxidative stress before it even gets a chance to do its job. This is where vitamin C steps in. It acts as a protector, stabilizing nitric oxide so that it survives long enough to actually relax your blood vessels and improve circulation. Oranges, grapefruits, lemons, and limes are all rich in vitamin C, and the research connecting them to improved blood vessel function is compelling. Studies have found that higher vitamin C intake is associated with lower blood pressure and better arterial flexibility, both of which point directly to better nitric oxide activity. Beyond vitamin C, citrus fruits contain a group of compounds called flavonoids, which have their own independent ability to support blood vessel health. For anyone over 50, and especially those in their 60s and beyond, making citrus a regular part of the diet is one of the simplest and most enjoyable ways to protect what your body is quietly trying to build. Number 6 on this countdown is a fruit that has been used in traditional medicine for thousands of years, and modern science is now explaining exactly why. Pomegranate is one of the most polyphenol-rich foods on Earth, and those polyphenols have a direct relationship with your endothelium. The endothelial cells lining your arteries are the factories where nitric oxide is made, and pomegranate's compounds work to protect those cells from damage. When your endothelial cells are healthy, they produce more nitric oxide. When they are inflamed or damaged, production drops sharply. Clinical studies have shown that regular pomegranate consumption leads to measurable improvements in arterial thickness and blood flow. In one well-cited study, participants who drank pomegranate juice daily for a year experienced significant reductions in arterial stiffness. That is not a minor result. Arterial stiffness is one of the strongest predictors of cardiovascular risk in older adults. Pomegranate works quietly over time, protecting the very cells responsible for keeping your arteries open and your circulation healthy. It is a long-term investment in vascular health that pays off in ways you can actually measure. Number 5 introduces a fruit that many people associate with summer picnics rather than cardiovascular health, but watermelon deserves far more credit than it receives. The reason comes down to a compound called L-citrulline. Unlike L-arginine, which gets processed partly in the digestive tract before reaching the bloodstream, L-citrulline takes a different route. Once absorbed, it converts into L-arginine inside the kidneys, and that L-arginine then travels to the endothelium to support nitric oxide production. This two-step pathway actually delivers more L-arginine to the blood vessels than eating L-arginine directly. Research on L-citrulline has shown improvements in blood flow, reductions in arterial stiffness, and even decreased muscle soreness after physical activity. For older adults who deal with circulation challenges or physical fatigue, these are not small benefits. Watermelon also provides exceptional hydration, which supports healthy blood volume and circulation on its own. The flesh closest to the rind contains the highest concentrations of L-citrulline, so eating the whole fruit rather than just the sweetest center actually gives you more of what your body needs. This is one case where the less popular part of the food carries the greater benefit. Number 4 on this list has been used as both food and medicine across virtually every culture in human history, and its cardiovascular benefits are now backed by serious scientific research. Garlic does something that most foods cannot do. It does not just provide raw materials for nitric oxide production. It activates the enzyme responsible for making it. That enzyme is called nitric oxide synthase, and it is the biological machinery inside your endothelial cells that converts L-arginine into nitric oxide. Garlic contains compounds, particularly allicin-formed when garlic is crushed or chopped, that directly enhance the activity of this enzyme. Multiple studies have shown that garlic supplementation leads to measurable reductions in blood pressure, improvements in arterial flexibility, and better overall circulation. In some research, the blood pressure reductions observed with garlic extract were comparable to those seen with standard antihypertensive medications. That is a remarkable finding. It does not mean garlic replaces medication, but it does mean that garlic is not simply a flavoring agent. It is an active agent in cardiovascular health. For people managing blood pressure concerns in their 60s and beyond, adding fresh garlic regularly to cooking is one of the most evidence-backed dietary choices available. Number 3 moves the conversation to a category of foods that many people know they should eat more of, but often do not prioritize as strongly as they should. Leafy greens are not just generally healthy. They are the most concentrated dietary source of nitrates, and those nitrates are the direct precursors to nitric oxide through a specific and powerful biological pathway. When you eat spinach, arugula, kale, Swiss chard, or romaine lettuce, your body absorbs the nitrates from those greens into your bloodstream. Bacteria that naturally live in your mouth then convert those nitrates into nitrites. From there, nitrites are transformed into nitric oxide in your blood vessels and tissues. What makes this pathway so significant is that it bypasses some of the limitations of the endothelium-dependent production route. Even when the endothelial cells are aging or under stress, the nitrate pathway can still deliver nitric oxide directly. Large-scale studies involving thousands of participants have found that people who eat leafy greens regularly have meaningfully lower rates of heart disease, better blood pressure control, and improved vascular function. This is not a subtle effect. The data is consistent across multiple populations and study designs. Leafy greens are not optional for anyone serious about protecting their cardiovascular health as they age. They are foundational, and their impact on nitric oxide production is one of the clearest reasons why. Number 2 is where this countdown surprises most people, and it is a pleasant surprise. Dark chocolate, specifically the kind with 70% cocoa content or higher, contains a group of plant compounds called flavonoids that have a direct effect on nitric oxide production inside your blood vessels. These flavonoids trigger the endothelium to increase its output of nitric oxide, which leads to what scientists call vasodilation, the widening and relaxing of blood vessels. When your vessels relax, blood flows with less resistance, blood pressure drops, circulation improves, and the heart does not have to push as hard. Studies have shown that regular consumption of high-quality dark chocolate leads to measurable improvements in blood vessel flexibility and reductions in blood pressure readings. The key word here is quality. Milk chocolate does not carry the same benefits because it contains far less cocoa and far more sugar. The flavonoids that matter are concentrated in the cocoa itself, and processing methods can destroy them. Choosing dark chocolate with a high cocoa percentage and eating a small amount consistently rather than large amounts occasionally is the way to access these cardiovascular benefits. It is one of the most enjoyable prescriptions in all of nutritional science. And now the countdown arrives at number 1. The food at the top of this list is not glamorous. It does not have an exotic name or an impressive marketing campaign. But the science behind it is among the strongest of any food studied for cardiovascular support. Beets, simple, earthy, deeply colored beets, are the single richest dietary source of nitrates available. And the process that unfolds after you eat them is one of the most well-documented natural pathways for improving heart and vascular health. When you eat beets, the nitrates they contain are absorbed rapidly into your bloodstream. From there, the same conversion process that begins in the mouth with leafy greens continues here as well. Nitrates become nitrites. Nitrites become nitric oxide. But what sets beets apart is the sheer concentration of nitrates involved. The amount delivered by a moderate serving of beets or a glass of beet juice is high enough to produce physiological effects that researchers can measure within hours of consumption. This is not a gradual, months-long benefit. This is a rapid, measurable response happening inside your arteries the same day you eat them. The effects documented in studies are striking. Arteries relax and open up. blood pressure drops by meaningful amounts, sometimes comparable to low-dose medication effects. Oxygen delivery throughout the body improves because blood is flowing more freely and efficiently. For older adults dealing with blood pressure concerns, circulation challenges, or simply the fatigue that comes with reduced cardiovascular efficiency, these effects matter enormously. Multiple independent research teams across different countries have replicated these findings, which is what separates beets from the many foods that get overhyped without solid evidence. Beet juice appears to produce the most concentrated effect, but roasted beets, steamed beets, and even fermented beet preparations all deliver meaningful nitrate content. The one thing to be mindful of is cooking method. Excessive boiling can leach nitrates out into the water, reducing what your body actually receives. Roasting preserves more of the beneficial compounds and also brings out the natural sweetness of the vegetable. Adding beets to salads, roasting them as a side dish, or blending them into a smoothie with other fruits are all practical ways to bring this powerful food into regular rotation without it feeling like a chore. There is something deeply reassuring about the picture this entire countdown paints. None of these 8 foods require a prescription. None of them come with the side effects of medications. They are not difficult to find or expensive to buy. They are real foods that have nourished human beings for generations, and modern science is now explaining in precise biological terms exactly why they support cardiovascular health as powerfully as they do. The common thread running through all 8 of them is nitric oxide. Each one contributes to this molecule in its own distinct way, building it, protecting it, activating the enzymes that produce it, or delivering the raw materials it needs. For anyone in their 60s or beyond, this information carries particular weight. The natural decline in nitric oxide production that comes with age is real. It is measurable, and it has genuine consequences for blood pressure, arterial health, heart function, and daily energy levels. But the decline is not inevitable in the sense that nothing can be done about it. The research is clear that dietary choices have a meaningful impact on nitric oxide levels at every age, including and especially in older adults whose endothelial function has already begun to shift. The approach does not need to be dramatic. Small, consistent changes made over time accumulate into significant outcomes. Adding a handful of nuts to your daily routine, squeezing lemon over your vegetables, including beets once or twice a week, eating dark leafy greens regularly, and treating yourself to a small square of quality dark chocolate each day are not major lifestyle overhauls. They are simple additions that work together over time to support the cardiovascular system in a way that no single supplement or medication fully replicates. The synergy between these foods, each targeting a different part of the nitric oxide production and protection pathway, is what makes this approach so compelling. Think honestly for a moment about what is currently on your plate most days. Are leafy greens appearing regularly or only occasionally? Are you eating nuts and seeds as a consistent habit or reaching for other snacks that offer no vascular benefit? Is fresh garlic part of your cooking or something you use once in a while for flavor, without thinking about its deeper effects? These are not questions meant to create guilt. They are an invitation to look clearly at the gap between what your body needs and what it is currently receiving, and to recognize that closing that gap is entirely within your reach. The human body at 60, 65, 70, and beyond still responds to good nutrition. The endothelium still has the capacity to improve its function when it receives the right support. Arteries that have become stiff can regain some flexibility when the conditions are right. Blood pressure that has been creeping upward can stabilize when nitric oxide production is restored through dietary means. The body is not finished adapting. It is waiting for the right inputs. And the foods on this list are precisely those inputs. Continue learning about how nutrition shapes cardiovascular health as you age, because the science in this area is expanding rapidly. Researchers are continuing to identify specific compounds in whole foods that interact with the nitric oxide pathway in ways that were not fully understood even a decade ago. Staying informed is not just interesting. It is one of the most practical things you can do for your long-term well-being. The choices made at the grocery store, at the kitchen counter, and at the dining table are among the most powerful health decisions available to you every single day. And knowing why those choices matter makes all the difference in whether they actually get made.